If you've ever thought of quilting your own projects but just don't know where to start, I have the perfect first steps for you. I've put together a PDF guide. I call it 3 Steps Toward Freehand Freedom. These are the baby steps, but they can help you move past your overwhelm and show you that yes, indeed, freehand quilting can be learned. So if you'd like to snag this PDF, there's a link in the show notes, or if you're an Instagram user, just message me 3 steps. That's the number 3 STEPS, and I'll send you that link. Let today be the day you get started.
My favorite color is definitely blue. It brings me back to my upbringing of the beach, the oceans. I love neutrals. I love blues, greens, sea glass. Those are the things that invoke peace and harmony.
Welcome to Measure Twice, Cut Once, the podcast where we hear quilters and other crafters' stories and draw encouragement and even life lessons from them. Today's guest is Vanessa Christenson. I'm your host, Susan Smith, and I'm coming to you from my quilting studio, Stitched by Susan. This is where my long arm, Lucy, and I spend our days doing freehand, edge-to-edge quilting. Now, if you're not a long arm quilter and those terms mean nothing to you, it's basically doodling on the surface of a quilt with a 50-pound writing pencil, needle and thread attached at really high speed. And if you are a machine quilter, I have a resource that I think you would love. My personal favorite quilting motif is the feather. And feathers are really traditional. They were quilted years and years ago by hand and in sometimes very simple fashions. And nowadays we see a lot more elaborate and detailed machine quilting versions. And they're always eye-catching, whichever way they're done. So I've developed a version of the feather that I call an all-over or edge-to-edge design, and it meanders across a whole quilt top. And because feathers can be intimidating to quilters, I've created a lesson where you can see this process. So it starts right from the very individual feather plume, and it works through the shapes of those feathers, how to make them move across the whole quilt top and avoid awkward corners. I talk about customizing little details, all the things. So it's all here in this lesson, and I'll walk you through it and demo the quilting for you step by baby step. So it's a free class, but you do need to register for it, and you can simply go to feather.stitchedbysusan.com to gain access to that class. Today's Pins and Needles is brought to you by The Will and Dave Show.
Hi, I'm the Will half of The Will and Dave Show, a short little podcast that myself and the eponymous Dave like to record talking about the things that really matter to us, whether that's social, political, or pop culture. Usually we don't see eye to eye, but more often than not, we can find some common ground in there somewhere. And now, back to Pins and Needles with a quick tip for all you sharp quilters out there.
I know whenever I finish a quilting project, whether it's my own or a client's, I'm always wanting to snap some photos to remember it by. And my tip for you today is that the best time to photograph quilts, I find, is in the morning. Daylight is always the best light. It's bright, it shows up the details, and it keeps the truest colors for you. So for me, that usually happens in the morning, and I don't use a fancy camera, I just use my smartphone. And occasionally, if the light is really harsh, I'll hang a sheer curtain over the window to filter it a bit. But that really bright and focused daylight, I find, is the best time to photograph quilts, to catch their details and to capture the truest colors. You know by now that I love my coffee. If you're interested in supporting this podcast, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Stitched by Susan. There, for the price of one delicious coffee, you're able to make a one-time contribution or sign up for a monthly one if you so choose. Thank you so very much for your support. I sure appreciate it. And maybe take a moment now to refill your cup as you settle back to enjoy today's interview. You may know Vanessa Christenson as the Ombre Queen and as a pattern and fabric designer, but she is much more than that. She's a wife and mom to 4 humans and 2 cats. She's an author, a podcast co-host, and also a life coach, helping creative women reach their potential. Welcome, Vanessa, into my studio. So great to have you here.
Oh, Susan, it's so fun to be here, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to be here.
This is great fun. I, of course, know you as the Ombre Queen, as I'm sure many of my listeners do too. But Tell us what came before that. Tell us a bit of your quilting or crafting journey.
Oh, it's been kind of a fun journey. I started off, my husband and I got married pretty young. We were both 22 to 23, and I wanted to make my house a home. And so we didn't have very much money. So I tried to do my best with the things that my mom taught me. And I've always loved decorating, but of course, on a dime. So I would go to secondhand stores and see some, sheets or things like that, or clothing. And I would use that as my fabric. So that's where that started. But then as it got more complicated as quilting, my mom just showed me how to do some hand sewing duvets and things like that, but I had to learn a little bit more. And so when we moved, there was a friend. I really quickly became friends with this one individual, and I said, "Hey, so if you have a sewing machine, will you help me learn how to use it? And if I buy one, will you help me to use mine?" So she was graciously willing to help me learn how to do pillow covers and things like that. And then as time went on and I had more children, during that process, we started having children. And then I wanted to make a quilt. So I had another set of friends who were very expert quilters and said, "Come with us. Let's make a quilt." And that was the start of it. And like little squares, a rag quilt, and then I just kept moving on from there. But here's actually where things actually become very interesting and how I became a fabric designer. I caught the bug, right? And I decided that I wanted to do more in my home. And that was fun. I like to create things instead of buying them. And so we would do that. But my husband ended up getting deployed with the military. And we had this home that was kind of like the only home that was available at the time when we moved to a very small town prior to him getting deployed. And it was pretty run down. So we did fix up stuff, and then he got deployed. And I ended up just continuously writing on a blog. I started a blog at that point, and I wanted him to just see what I was doing at home and also the fun things that we were doing as a family, or sometimes like, "Please help me. How do I figure this out?" With a lot of humor, because I am of the understanding if we can't laugh through something, it makes it harder to deal with.
So true.
If we can just make it a little bit like, "Oh my gosh, isn't this so funny?" or "Isn't this interesting?" instead of like, "The world is ending. This is all horrible." I like the feeling better that comes from the mindset of like, "Okay, let's just try to find the funny in this," kind of thing. So I started writing about our family and about some of the things that I was doing in the home. And during that time, that was 2007, during that time, blogging was kind of in its, either starting in its peak or was in its peak sort of thing. And I started writing, and I started having people who weren't our family members looking at our blog and like asking questions about like, "Oh, what'd you do about that with your child?" Or "Oh, tell me more about that. How'd you do that?" If I had a crafting sort of situation that I just showed, this is what I did today. And so I started saying, okay, I can do how-tos on crafting and ask for like the parenting thing. I mean, literally, like, this is just how I live, like, just have fun with it. Like, actually, like, sometimes cry, but like, know that it's okay. It's just today, So as that was happening, I started to get more of a following on blogging. And, the how-tos became more of a weekly thing, and it became more repetition. It became friends with all these wonderful, amazing women and men all over the world. And I had this little community while my husband was deployed. At the same time, my love of Moda was very big because I loved their charm packs and all these things. It was so easy to use these already pre-cut things.
Right.
And so I would buy them as much as I could to also sell in my little shop that I then started creating stuff for to sell. And Moda was looking to also start the Moda Bake Shop during this time. And they reached out to me and said, hey, you're kind of fun with like the ways that you use the pre-cuts. Would you be willing to be a contributor? And so I started to contribute to the Moda Bake Shop. And I was like, okay, as long as you're okay that I'm a self-taught like crafting quilter and I do things sometimes interesting, they're like, if you can give directions and if you give like basic, images and things like that, yeah, I can do that. And so that's how our relationship started. And to this day, like some of my first contributions to Moda Bake Shop are some of the ones that people still actually reach out to me for. Like, hey, remember you did that? Can you give me the link to it? So all the way back to 2007, 2008. And people are still looking for those tutorials. So as time went on, a couple of people at Moda like that put things together were like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about being a pattern designer to actually have it into quilt stores? And I'm like, no. No, I haven't.
Tell me
And
more.
so I'm like, tell me more. Exactly. And so I asked a lot of questions, and here's the thing is that I didn't actually really realize what was happening as it was happening, that it was really just fun. It was just this experience. And it was like, okay, let's try it. I could have said, I don't have the schooling for it. Like I don't have, or like even my mom never taught me this. Like literally I only have this knowledge, but the ability to just say like, yeah, let's just give it a try. Right. So that was the first step there. And as time went on and, popularity with things, they asked, you're really good at putting colors together. Would you like to do this? And I'm like, you know what? Yes, but what you don't have right now is ombre fabric. Like I've actually looked for it for Moda and you don't have that. And they're like, oh, well, that's not really popular right now. And I'm like, okay, but can we try? So they said, okay, you can give it a try. And I was like, okay. And then that was it. That was like my starting point of I was going to make ombre fabric my thing, and it was going to be Moda's thing, and I was going to be the person to do it. But they were a little cautious about it because, again, they didn't want me to fail, right? Like all out fail. So I was asked to do some prints to go with the ombre fabric. And I was like, I'm not really a print kind of person, except if it looks kind of like, vintage sheets. And so they're like, okay. So remember all of that crafting beforehand when we didn't have money and I would go in and get sheets and stuff like that. Well, my favorite is from like when I was growing up in the 70s, which was this beautiful little leaf. And anyway, that was my basis. That was my starting point for the prints. And then we just added a few things. I drew a few things. They computerized it. It worked out beautifully. And it came out to be a beautiful success, that first fabric line. From there, again, we did the ombre thing, but it wasn't until a few years later where I said, can I just try something? Can I actually just do ombre? And they were like, well, okay, right? We'll trust you, but just so you know, it might not do that well. And I'm like, it's okay. So I just kept pushing and pushing. And it took a few years of me just saying like, you guys, hey, everyone, like, please listen to me. This ombre fabric is so amazing. You can have so many different shades of the same color. You don't have to think about it. If you just want to have a monochrome quilt, just choose one color. But all of our rainbow looks really well. So we started off with 20 colors. And then Wow, I went totally into my whole story. You asked me just for before ombre, but I guess we're
You know,
going
that's
here, right?
okay. Exactly. And it's just funny hearing, I know this is how it works, but it's amusing after the fact in hindsight, looking back at Moda's hesitations, because we know how popular all that ombre is today. It's
Well,
crazy.
and I'm kind of glossing over it. There was a lot of kind of a little bit like resistance there of like, I don't, I'm like, no, seriously, I will go down in flames. Like, please let me just try. Let me just try, and even if it fails, I at least did it. That's what I wanted.
Right, right.
That's what I wanted. I really just wanted to show people how amazing this fabric could be. And even if a lot of people didn't actually see it at first, my love of it and my like willingness to just work with it and show like really like let's just make patterns just about ombre fabric, right? For just ombre fabric. And people started to see it. They started to catch on and they were like, okay, well, that's cool, but I can also use it in other places too. I'm like, yes, you can. Oh my gosh, you're catching the vision, right? This is amazing. And so as time went on, like, we're like, okay, so that's great. And then I'm like, can we try one more thing? But it was doing okay. It wasn't doing amazing, but it did start to get a name for it. Like Moda was starting to actually say, oh, V&Co Ombres, got it. Okay. So then I said, how about if we make it a little funner, right? Why don't we put like an overlay of like, I don't know, confetti dots or something, like call it confetti, like dots of gold, gold was kind of a cool thing. I was noticing in the fashion world and also like in homes and things like that, gold was actually making a comeback. So I'm like, how about if we add gold? Can we do that? And Moda was like, I mean, we can try, right? Do you have an idea? And so I kind of gave them a little rough idea of like what I was thinking, back and forth a little bit, and like, boom, that was the confetti dot, right? Confetti dot ombre. And then it just caught fire. And then it just wouldn't stop. And then we added colors. And now we are on, I don't even know how many overlays have we done, but we've done the confetti dot. We have the original confetti dot. Then we have ombre bloom. Yes.
Bloom. There we go.
Where that one was really fun, where it's still ombre and the overlay is ombre as well. Same colors. So I did a sun print of just these cute little small flowers in my backyard. I just kind of plucked them a little bit and did my own little design. I did that, sent that in, and then we made it into what is ombre bloom. Which was that second overlay. Then, of course, if I could have a dime for all the emails that I got about, okay, we get it, all you gold people, right? That you love gold, but what about us silver people? That we love silver. So after the ombre bloom, we had already had in the works even after the confetti dot because of how popular it was, which is very interesting because normally Moda has where they just do a fabric line and then that's it, right? So then you start with a new one. And once you buy it, and then if you haven't bought it, then you're out of luck. They don't reprint things. So this ombre confetti, it had a nice like starting point, and it really did catch a little bit of fire, but it wasn't until people starting asking for it, and stores were like, oh, okay, I think we missed out on this. Like they started asking for more of it and they couldn't keep it in stock, that they actually did a whole reprint of everything. And that's where Moda actually understood what was happening with that confetti dot. So, but what happened even with the gold is that people are like, what about silver? You didn't do silver. I'm like, okay, we're doing silver. Don't worry about it. So that's where ombre fairy dust was created. And it was just the idea of like stars and like, like fairy dust, as you can see. Tinkerbell type idea.
Exactly. Sparkle.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after that, that's where Moto was like, all right, well, what about this? Now they're coming up with ideas like, how do we make this to continue? Right. And so they were like, what about like wovens? So that was our next one. We did ombre wovens. And that one has a really nice, fun, the texture of it. And we did lines at that point. So it still has that ombre overlay, but it's in a woven sort of idea with the lines. And then, of course, we go back to that confetti dot, and now we have backings in the confetti dot. So it's 108, and that's doing really well. And then my daughter and I have been having fun, like just cutting that up. It doesn't have to be just for backings, it can also be for cutting it up and having fun in big dots versus the smaller dots of the confetti dot, the gold. And now we have moved into our next, which is just so much fun, which is this Ombre Galaxy, which again is bringing back the gold, but splatter. So the idea is like, and also what's different about this ombre is that it's a little bit more organic looking. It has more of a hand dyed, like a hand ombre dyed, and it was very hard to replicate that at the mills, but they've done an excellent job. We had an original hand dyed ombre that we did, and then we did the overlay of the gold and splatter, and then of course it has the darker splatter as well, and that comes out very soon this spring of 2022.
Nice. Well, I don't know how many of our listeners have made projects with ombre fabrics before, but the magic in them is, and you alluded to it, is these variations of shades that come even within one color. So you can use very few, one or two colors in a quilt, and still you will achieve the same type of sparkle and life that maybe scrap quilts sometimes bring, because they've got all those depths and variations of color. That's what makes the ombre so special.
Yes, it is. And some of our most popular, like just even hits on our website is just that simple little square block ombre fabric, where I just used ombre quilt, which is just blocks, and it was a baby quilt, and my daughter was like just holding it, and it's because of just using just a few of those colors and making kind of like a little bit of a rainbow. Everyone thinks it's a magical, like there's so many fabrics used, but it's just the ombre fabric and all the different shades. So it does make it very magical.
It truly is. Well, one of the first places that I had an introduction to you is some years back, but you published a series of books on colors, and each color had its own small book. I found that so transformative in how I thought about color, and the one that I have is yellow, and it's practically dog-eared. So tell me maybe some of the thoughts that went into that. I don't even know how to ask the question, but that is just it's so rich with information about color and where to look and ideas and how to develop your sense of color.
Yeah, so that's what is always so beautiful for me about ombre fabric, but also just about color in itself. You have your favorite colors, right? Mm-hmm. Yellow must be one of yours? Is yellow?
Actually, I was given the book, but I do love yellow. It was just serendipitous.
But the idea is that you could actually buy this series as a rainbow, right? Or buy your favorite color. And so the idea is behind that is that everyone has their favorite colors, and it's because you have a lot of thoughts about that color, and it invokes all of this emotion. And so for me, I know the beauty of each individual color can create like an emotion in people. Like there are reasons why you usually use the same colors, or you gravitate towards the same colors when you quilt, when you create quilts, but I know a lot of people struggle with actually knowing how to combine colors together. So the idea was like, this is a book all about red, or all about yellow, or all about orange, whichever color that you had of the rainbow. And we're going to give you all of these fun projects that go with just this color, but we're also going to educate you a little bit of like, what are some of the colors that actually would go with it? And so there is a little bit of education with beautiful, beautiful photography. So it's supposed to be kind of like a coffee table book where you can flip through it and also use it as well, but also really appreciate each color as it is. And so for me, my favorite color is definitely blue. And that's because it brings me back to my upbringing of the beach, the oceans. I love neutrals. I love blues, greens, sea glass. Those are the things that invoke peace and harmony just in my mind, because that is just where I went to go relax. Those are the things that we do. And so color all on its own is actually so much rich. It's so rich with information that you give it with your thoughts. And so I wanted each book, and if people didn't want to buy the whole series, if they just wanted to have something pretty to look at and then stitch from, then create from, that in itself would create this sense of like, I don't know, just happiness, I thought,
I agree.
Yeah, that was sort of the idea. Suzanne Woods was the one that actually approached me at, I think it must have been Quilt Market. And she turned to me. It was when she was first creating her publishing company, that she looked at me. She turned around on the bus and said, "Hey, so you're all about color. I have an idea." And so she sort of pitched sort of the idea, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes. But what if," so we just sort of like brainstormed on that little bus ride back. And what it ended up being is just focusing on each color on its own. And also educating on the color wheel a bit.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of shining a little spotlight on each of those colors. Yeah,
yes.
Love it. So you kind of segued into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is you've created a whole other part of your life now that has all to do with coaching. And you and I have done some coaching work together. And it's all about the power of changing the narrative of your thoughts. Does that describe it in one sentence?
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of times people think, oh, coaching, oh, just positive thinking, got it. And it's like, but you and I know that's not where the work is. The work is actually taking what we believe and actually, especially some of the things that we don't even question as truths sometimes, that it's, like, perfect example, I'm not good with computers, or I'm not a very good quilter. That invokes emotions, which kind of like either hold us back or actually propel us to action. So what I do with coaching, and usually I call myself the coach for creative women, and usually they're creative women who either work outside of the home or who are trying to work from their home in one way or another, to try to find that balance of like our brain always problem solving and finding all the things that are probably problems here and there, but to actually really highlight the things that are going well, and also to really sort of bring in that narrative of things that are going well, but also how we can actually further ourselves to a higher level of things that we're already doing naturally, and finding balance between our creative brains, which sometimes tends to be a little bit, I don't know about you, but my creative brain is always thinking, always on, always wanting to add so much value and just creating all the time, that sometimes it becomes a little exhausting because I just do all the things, right? And then other times it's like, but I'm so burnt out. So what I do is I help individuals to really just sort of like cleanly look at their thoughts and actually allow emotions instead of resisting them or avoiding them, or really having a horrible relationship with themselves of like just letting this narrative of I'm a horrible quilter, I don't know how to do this, or this hurts my relationship with my spouse, so I can't do this. There's so many things that are there that if I just guide them, I help guide them through and just show them the narrative that they're having in their head, that we are able to unlock our brain to think of things slightly differently, challenge certain like thoughts that aren't truths, but we make them to be truths, right? And to actually have closer relationships, not just with ourselves, but with others around us. Quilt bees, our relationships with our spouses, whatever, is to actually have this ability to unlock the potential of being a better quilter or being better at balancing between work and home, and those type of things. Usually it's my client brings to me and I just ask the question, what is it that you're looking for? If everything aligns perfectly, what is it that you would like? And so we just sort of create a pathway for our brain to see the possibilities of that actually happening.
Right. And the aha moment for me, if you will, is just how much of that is linked directly to your thought habits. They are habits. They are changeable.
Yeah.
Changing that narrative is just, it just makes a world of difference. So you currently co-host a podcast, is that correct, with your husband? Tell us about that.
So I am a life coach, and I've been certified through the life coach school, but my husband's a marriage and family therapist. And he has 20 somewhat years of he has 20 somewhat years of experience. And he got his master's and PhD and in marriage and family therapy. So he not only taught as a professor at a university, he also has been a marriage and family therapist for that long. So at our house, I actually went back to school to get my psychology degree, and I was actually looking to get my master's and become a marriage and family therapist as well. And so because I just believe in, again, it's that mental health, the way that we see life, the way that we deal with things. I just wanted to help people to be able to live a better life. And so I was making the works to go get my master's, and I stumbled across life coaching, a podcast, the Life Coach School. And the way she was explaining things, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so clear. This is so exactly what I want to do. So I made the decision to, instead of becoming a marriage and family therapist, to be a life coach. And so usually, again, my passion is the relationship with yourself and others. So my husband and I have had some quite spirited discussions of between, like, therapy, life coaching, blah, 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 blah. So we just decided, I'm like, you know what, let's have these conversations on a podcast.
On air. So, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, why not? But what's interesting is that there's a lot of similarities, but there's definitely a lot of differences when you would actually see a therapist versus when you would see a life coach. Actually, I have women who and clients who see a therapist and see me as their life coach. I have individuals who have had years of therapy and they've done well with therapy, and they don't need a therapist anymore. They want a life coach. They still want just certain things. And the main difference that we've decided is that medically needed guidance and with diagnosis is therapy world, right?
Okay.
And so life coaching is you've done that work, or you're doing that work, or you don't need that work that's medically needed. That's what I take care of. It's just, just taking who you are, what you're doing well already, taking some of that overwhelm and like kind of deconstructing it and making sense of it so that we can be at a higher level. And so those are the conversations we have on our podcast, and we just kind of dissect things and we talk about it, how we agree. Sometimes, that would be a therapy sort of thing, or this life coach, this is how I would handle it. And so it's kind of fun. It's a little bit more of a conversation, but we do have, every single time, we do talk about certain things that sometimes can be kind of overwhelming for individuals who don't know how to handle those things, whether they need a therapist or a life coach or both. But we're having a lot of fun.
So would it be fair to say that perhaps some of this, the coaching that you offer and just your desire to get into that field, does that come, and you can not answer this if you prefer, but does that come from kind of grappling with some of these things in your own life and just seeing the need for this objective viewpoint brought to situations? Okay, good. Good. We're all in the same boat then, is what you're saying.
So yes, since I was young, I actually have worked with, I like to say I work with anxiety, sort of I struggle with. because I've had anxiety. I just didn't understand it. And I felt like the world was it was very chaotic for me for quite some time. And I've dealt with panic attacks, and I've dealt with certain things that from a very young age, I was interested in how our mind worked. I just wanted to understand what was going on with my mind. So I would go, even as early as like probably eighth grade, and just go into Barnes and Noble and look for self-help books on like how to take care of this sort of relationship, or how to do this, how to have more self-confidence and things like that. And I have learned that everyone has a lens that they look through life. And I decided back when, after all the success of being a fabric designer and all of these things, is that I still was struggling with certain things like anxiety. And I had gone to therapy as well and things like that. And I do all of the tools that come with therapy. And I've been on medication before, and I understand the importance of those things. And I wanted to help other women like myself, a creative mind, who may be working from home, trying to create a life, more income from home. Or I now am also a working mom outside of the home as well, which helps me to understand the need to balance that. And that's where I went back to school of like, I want to help women or individuals. I always say women because that's usually who my clientele is. But other individuals like me who have creative minds, who just want to do so much, but want to do it with less overwhelm, less of those sort of issues that like are thoughts that just sort of kind of keep us stuck and just
kind of on a treadmill, right? Because we keep repeating the same thoughts.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going nowhere.
Exhausted, trying to work, hustling, but exhausting and like just burning ourselves out.
Yeah.
And making some progress. I mean, we are doing some progress, but just that burnout. So that's why I call myself the life coach for creative minds who are workers, who are either in their home or outside of their home. But really, I can help anyone who is having these overwhelming feelings that feels like they're keeping them stuck from being able to be their creative self, being able to like enjoy those things in life.
Right. Okay. And did you say what your podcast is called?
Oh, no, it's The Coach and the Therapist.
I love that. I absolutely love it.
And our little icon is just this little cute pink couch. I won. I got the pink couch.
I love it. I love it. So what's on the horizon? We mentioned a new ombre fabric coming out. Anything else coming up in the next few weeks that we'd like to know about?
Yeah, actually, I have this great thing. I just did a webinar. I'm working actually with my husband's company, Covenant Family Solutions. I'm doing a 4-day workshop, which is a really low price of $19. And it's during the middle of the day. So if you can attend it, it's okay. It'll be recorded. And you can watch it later through the link. It's how to have a better relationship with yourself. It's a 4-day workshop. I can give you the link or somehow do that.
We'll be sure and pop the link into the show notes. But tell me what dates it is, please.
Yeah, February 18th. Nope, sorry, that's when it ends. February 15th to the 18th, right after all the hoopla of Valentine's Day. How to have a better relationship with yourself so that you can actually show up in your present, like a higher version of yourself, not just for yourself, but for others as well. To be there for yourself and just actually really enjoy being in your own skin and being able to understand where emotions come from, how to manage our minds in a better way so that we can actually just be present for ourselves and others. So that's what's coming up for me in that world. And then also, of course, I have a book just came out from Tiffany Hayes that we have a pattern in there. It's called Paper Hearts, and it's ombre hearts. It's beautiful. I'll have to send you a picture of it. It's really beautiful. And also we're in a couple of magazines actually one magazine for sure, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but I will let you know.
We'll put it in the show notes. Trusty place for everything.
Perfect. And yeah, we're already working on our next fabric line, which I don't know if I should, you know what? I can say it. It's a Christmas one. So I'm really excited about that.
Nice. Oh, I look forward to it. Good.
Yeah, all ombre. So yeah.
Super. Look forward to that. Okay, so before we go, do you have a little gem, a little nugget you'd like to leave with our listeners? Can be from life, can be from crafting, can be from family, whatever you like.
Yeah. Honestly, my gem would be the way we think about our future and our life and ourselves can really either keep us running in place or on a treadmill, right? Or it can actually help us to propel us to our future self, which could be like leaps and bounds. We can either stay stuck or we can really attain dreams, like unimaginable dreams. Like we can actually like just put it out there. Like maybe I can try that out. It's the idea of like kind of when I was just having fun with the fabric and I didn't really actually put so much weight of like, if this doesn't work, it's failure. I almost feel like the universe rewards you with like just the idea of like, yeah, let's just kind of have fun and be curious about this and let's give this a try. When we approach that with other things in life, it actually is really rewarding, and you can actually live and reach some goals that you might not have been able to reach if you were scared and worried of the outcomes.
Agreed. I love that word propel. Somehow that just speaks to me. Love that.
Yeah. Lovely.
Well, thank you ever so much for joining me today. This has been a real treat.
Thank you, Susan.
All right. We'll do it again sometime.
Perfect.
Wow, that was a powerful conversation. So incredible to think that for good or for ill, our thoughts have the power to redirect our lives. Well, thank you, my friend, for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this podcast, would you consider leaving a review on Apple Podcast or the listening app of your choice? It really helps other listeners to find the show so they can enjoy these stories too. And I would love to hear from listeners who would like to nominate a crafter that has a story to tell. If you know such a person, would you email me, info@stitchedbysusan.com. So, until next time, may your sorrows be patched and your joys be quilted.